NRL Fantasy buy, hold, sell, and we are experiencing some chaos over the last couple of weeks. But guys, if you're on live, you heard this before. As Littlefinger from Game of Thrones says, chaos is a ladder. So let's climb that ladder together. Let's move up the ranks here. Biz, how was last week for you, mate?
Last week was good for me, Longy. Moved from rank about 4K to 1.5K. Made some ballsy calls, like I said I would in last week's show. Captain Cleary over House paid off, 30-point advantage there. My boy Thomas Cant got moved to centre early. It wasn't looking great at halftime, but scored 50 points and named to start in the second row this week again. NRL physio saying that Lucas might be a bit slower than expected, and Cant still might have 2-3 weeks at second row. Hopefully, a couple of 60s in there, looking good, feeling good. This week, I'm going to make some more bold moves. I'm just going to keep making these low logic trades as long as they keep working for me. How about you, Longy?
Mate, that's sick, by the way. It's so good that Camp worked out because when I saw him move to center 2 minutes in, I thought, oh no, 25 to 35 points. But three forced errors is unheard of. Like he absolutely destroyed that Broncos Bulldogs edge. For me, a bit of a rise. So 826 last week, rose from about 5,500 into about 3,000. So in a pretty good spot here, just moving up every week. We're going to get into that top 1,000 together. Make sure we can secure a good spot for this year. Now let's turn to today's episode because we've got heaps to talk about. We've got buys, cash cows, pods, holds, and sells. The pods are really interesting this week, guys. So if you do sort of want to skip through, make sure you get to the pod section. But the buys, you can't ignore either. Latrell Mitchell's the first one here, 784K. He's coming up off a bit of a loss there, 16K lost. Scored a 47 last week. Scored one more than Rob Toyer in the center spot there in their matchup. But I'm looking at Latrell Mitchell, and as much as the score wasn't inspiring, the kick meters were massive. Now, I'll throw to you, Biz, here. What are your thoughts on Trell this week?
Yeah, I think we need to address Latrell right off the bat. Big positional change for him, coming off the back of like 567 odd kick meters. Look, it's a tricky one. He hasn't played too much six before. I think the last time he played six was in 2019 or something for Roosters, 3 or 4 games. Not a great sample size. It was like a 25, low, like mid 20s average, but that was on the back of no kick meters.
Mm.
Didn't look like he's going to run the ball as much, and that kind of was backed up by the stats on the weekend. Only like a handful of meters last week. I think about 65 odd. I think honestly, the run game and the kicking game kind of nullify each other at that price point. Like it's very interesting to me. I think he's definitely worth considering, but I'm personally not doing it this week. I want to see how it pans out. Look, even with 560 kick meters, Latrell builds his game, like his fantasy game, on that big explosive tackle breaks, offloads, like the final passes, try assists. I think he gets less at six. Wait and see for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'll sort of counter here. They were missing a bunch of players. They were down on men. They were sort of surviving in that game against the Roosters. And we've seen the Roosters over and over again. They're getting into these really low scoring games where they're not really threatening on the scoreboard. So we saw South surviving basically towards the end. And that's not great for the running game of a guy like Latrell Mitchell. In this Cowboys game, though, we've seen the Cowboys have rocked up and they've thrown attacking footy at everyone they've played against, especially in the last few weeks. So I think we're going to see Latrell forced to do a bit more. The other thing I look at here is against the Cowboys, those edges are a bit undersized in certain areas. So getting the ball to Latrell out there, that could be really dangerous. So look, I'm probably not going to buy Latrell Mitchell. I've looked at it and I can afford it. I can go Jamie Humphries to Latrell, but it's just a bit of a dicey one. I think he will come down in price. He's priced in the high 50s. I don't think he's value there. But if I had 10 fantasy teams, I'd buy Latrell in one of them. Like, I think if 10% of the people watching this buy Latrell, it'll be good because you give yourself that shot for that nuclear score, which you can totally pull out against the Cowboys. But it's not the percentage play, in my view. Just on the kick meters there, do you see him dominating again? Because it was like 567 to 30 odd for Sullivan.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we'll touch on Sullivan later in the show. But yeah, it's a very strange one. I just think that he's got such a good boot on him, and it seems to be the case this year with the Wayne coach Souths that they're just going to rely on one person for the heavy kick meters. Like Humphreys was getting 600, 700, right? So if
Yeah.
those kick meters, like Latrell has just as good a boot as Humphreys, like even if not a bigger boot. So if you translate Humphreys kick meters, I think they go straight to Trell really. So I don't think that's an anomaly. I think he's going to kick for 550, 600 kick meters a game. I don't think Sullivan's going to get much of it, to be honest. He's not a noted
Mm.
kicker. Dodd coming back might change that, but I don't really think so because we've seen articles, we've seen Wayne, we've seen like Jason Demetrio even last talking about how good Latrell's kicking game is. So my personal expectation is that kind of continues for him.
See, now you're making me think Latrell is Jamie Humphrey's scoring profile plus Latrell's attacking upside.
Well, the only thing with that is Humphreys likes to make 30 tackles a game.
Mm.
Trell, I think, is going to make 5 to 10 tackles. That's the big difference. So it
Yep.
kind of nets out. And the other question is, how long does Latrell actually stay at 6? Like, it might be a 1 week thing, could be a 2 week thing. So that's the other consideration as well.
Yeah. I guess he goes back to fullback most
But yeah,
likely after
exactly.
that.
If he
But
goes back to fullback,
yeah.
then that's not a problem anyway, because we know he's a gun there anyway.
Mm. I'm getting more and more tempted as I think about this. My
Great pod.
concern right now is Latrell's one of those guys who, as we get towards Thursday, I'll get too excited and just jump on. Like
Yeah. I
I
don't
can feel
mind it.
myself every hour. Yeah, it could be a big
He could pop
fun
off for
pod.
a 90 any given week. Like he had a bunch of 80 plus games last year.
Mate, Cowboys. It's a good matchup. Like they're playing good footy. It'll be a bit of a shootout compared to previous weeks. So yeah, it could be juicy, guys. If you like Latrell, jump on. Nathan Cleary, 745K. This one is so straightforward. He's priced at a 55. He carries a break even in the low 70s this week. No guarantee to make cash or anything like that, right? Break even in the low 70s, but this is as cheap as you'll get Nathan Cleary for the rest of his career, I would expect. Maybe that final year he plays at the age of 40 when he's captain coach, he might get below this, but this is insanely cheap for Nathan Cleary. Is there anything else to think about here, Biz?
Only if you want to captain him this week. I think he's got the Dolphins, if I'm right.
Mm.
And Blaze Talangi as his partner rather than Cole. I think that actually helps him. Like Blaze doesn't kick at all either. So Cleary takes 99% of the kicks this year. His kind of score is moving up each week. He was running the ball a lot more last week. And I think Blaze will actually open up more attacking opportunities. But Cole is in the team for his defense and defensive work rate. I wouldn't say he's in there for his attack. Blaze is all in, like, there's not much defense and at least a lot of running the ball. Like, let's see how good his attack is. But I think that helps Cleary. So, yeah, absolutely get him in. Only question is Captain Cleary this week. So, yeah.
Good down to watch. I'm leaning towards Haas, but I could definitely see him taking up at least a few of the missed tackles from Tom Gilbert, racking up some tackle busts in that game. Then Suo Wong, 589K. Look, you jumped on Suo Wong a few weeks ago, so I'm going to throw this one to you, man. You're the Wong expert. Is he
Uh,
still the right buy?
Wong gave me faith to buy Tom Canton last week because even like these low logic trades are just paying off this year. This year is the year of the trap. Every trap is dominating. Sia Wong, yeah, 589K. He's been look. What gives me faith is that not only is he scoring a ton of points in fantasy with a 57 average, he's been really good on the field. Like he's good in defense. His work rate is high. Had some great attacking plays last week. A lovely assist where he spun out a tackle, great offload to his winger. I think the thing with Wong is we saw that though at full strength. See, the Roosters never get at full strength. Someone's getting knocked out, someone's getting injured. So like, who really knows? But I think Suo Wong has now truly earned this spot. We've seen Butcher move to the prop rotation. I think though at full strength, Wong gets 65 minutes. Like we saw that the week before last
Yeah.
when everyone was in the side, well, close to everyone was in the side that he was a 65-minute guy. And I think if he's playing 65 minutes, you've probably missed the boat. It's like a Navua White situation. Like this scoring, he's only scored 80 every week, right? I think he's safe for if he's playing 65 minutes, I think he's safe for a mid 40s to 50 score. And then if he's playing 80 minutes, he's decent for a 50 to 55 most weeks. If you think he's an 80-minute player, then yeah, it's not too late. But if you think full rotation, it's a 65-minute split, which is what I think. Then I wouldn't be buying him at this stage. But if you've got on him, like as an owner now, like I'm loving it. Life's good. But yeah, look, I think it kind of when he was 350, 450K, it was a really exciting prospect. Now it's, he's getting up there. So I wouldn't be too stressed about not getting him this week.
Yeah, I'll throw one thing in here too. They got the Broncos this week, and the Broncos blew them off the field in the middle of the field in round one. So, we saw Pat Carrigan absolutely dominate. We saw Payne Haas have that legendary game as well. My concern here is I look at that Roosters pack, and as you mentioned, Nat Butcher at prop, Nat Butcher next to Nafahu White, Victor Radley at lock, and then you got Connor Watson at hooker. Pretty small middle rotation there with Spencer Leniu sitting on the bench. I would be very, very surprised if on game day they're not moving Spencer Leniu into the starting team, because you've got to have someone to square up against Payne Haas, and I don't see who that is if it's not Spencer Leniu. And if it's not Spencer Leniu who's matching up against Haas to start the game, I don't know why Spencer Lenu's in the team. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me. So my expectation is they'll swap that around. Lenu's the guy that's going to have to do that for the Roosters, and if they're going to be a chance at winning that game, it's going to need to be a lot of intensity at the start of the game, as opposed to just getting blown through the middle. And then Lenu comes on when they're down by, 18-0, like it was round one. So that's one thing to keep in mind. That could mean Nat Butcher moves to another spot, maybe moves to lock, moves to the second row. It could put pressure on Wong's minutes if he comes off the bench. Just something to keep in mind for this week. But I keep raising points like this, and injuries keep happening at the Roosters, and I keep being wrong. So if you want to ignore me as well, that's fine too.
Yeah, Radley's like more likely to get a HI than finish the game these days. So could throw everything out the window when he gets 80 minutes. Like that's pretty much what's happening every week for Wong. He probably is not coming in with the intention to play 80 most weeks, but there's just been HIAs, MCLs, like you name it. Like Watson got an HIA against the Warriors. Radley's had 2 or 3 HIAs. Like it just keeps coming for him. So it's just one of those things you just ride the luck, but you never know where it ends.
Yeah, Lindsay Collins non-factor too. He's out for 6 weeks now as well. Then Jamal Fogarty sits about 700k. Look, this one's pretty straightforward. Fogarty is safe and boring, and safe and boring is a good thing this year in fantasy. He will average sort of between 55 and 60, I would expect. He's a little bit underpriced. He's getting the job done. We saw him pump out at 65 last week, and we haven't seen that big attacking day from Fogarty yet either. So he's got a pretty solid ceiling, and he's a great option if you want a basic half. I'll throw to you, man, because I know you want to talk about Clifford, and I couldn't fit Clifford into this. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, some alternatives to Fog. I mean, I'd say not much to add to Fog, except Fog's like the cheaper half version of Yo. Like he's just kind of just average,
Yeah.
just not the fun to own, but he'll do the job. Some alternatives to Fog, just with Humphreys being a trade out. Yeah, obviously I looked at Clifford because he's just had such a good run of scores. But I'm not on Clifford. I just think that he's been getting lucky with a lot of opportunistic stats, a lot of turnover tackles, a couple of tries in the previous game. He's played like 7-8 years, nothing to really back up the fact he can match this average. Even in in the Host Plus Cup, which is the Queensland Cup, like 40 averages. Like he's not even that strong in fantasy against reserve graders. So I'm avoiding Clifford. I think he's getting lucky. Like I said, it's the year of the trap, so he probably goes on an average of 60 now. Other options I've looked at, obviously I looked at Ben Hunt really closely in the case Reynolds was out, but he was cleared, so not much of a factor. Isaiah Katoa is a really interesting one, like quietly averaging like 53, 54 or something. And he's like a super pod. Like that's with Dolphins playing terribly. Like if there's improvements, then Katoa only gets better. He could maybe just sneakily be a 55 average this year and no one really gets on, just under the radar buy. And another one is Fletcher Sharp. Now, Fletcher Sharp's interesting because we saw all these flurry of attacking stats to average in the high 50s over the first few weeks. He still scored mid 30s in a shutout, and that's what you kind of want to see, right? Like, what is the downside case with this guy? And if 35 is the downside case, and it's shutout against the league leading Bulldogs who are defensively just absolute juggernauts this year, like that is not a bad base case. He's still only in the 600s, so he's not that expensive yet. He's a dual position. He's one I'm really considering this week, and I'll talk about who my prime target for a trade is later this week. I was accused of saying that everyone I'm trading in so last week, which is totally fair. So I want to keep it down. There's 2 or 3 targets I'm looking at this week.
Yep.
But Sharp is the other one I'm looking at. I personally would go Sharp over Fog. I think he's more exciting to own. Knights have the next buy is until round 18, and they have a decent run of fixtures. Arguably should only be getting better at that spot. So Fletcher Sharp for me is a great alternative to Jamal Fogarty. But I would have, swaps for Humphreys. If it needed a half, it would be probably like someone like Sharp, Fogarty, and then I'd have like guys like Clifford. But some other interesting options like Galvin and stuff like are doing pretty well. So there's a lot of kind of halves in that low 50s range. And you just got to kind of pick the one you think has the most potential or the most value right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, everything you raise is logical. I would go Fogarty over Sharp myself, just because I like guys who can score. In that game against Manly, Fogarty scored 40 plus, and Canberra got absolutely destroyed. I love guys like that who just sort of
Yeah.
rock up. They score points easily. And Fogarty does have a bit of attack in his game as well, especially with Canberra having such good edges in terms of their attacking, running game. So I'd go Fogarty over Sharp myself. But even with a guy like Sharp, I sort of look at him and go, oh, get him, or I could spend 140K more and get Latrell.
Mm.
You got that ceiling there as well. That's probably even a little bit higher with Latrell than it is with Sharp. So
Yeah.
that's where I lean. The other thing I look at there is Phoenix Crossland is playing halfback for the
Ugh.
Knights this week. Yeah, so you've had Cogger who hasn't really done much. I question sort of what Crossland seems to want to take on more when he moves into hooker and moves into the halves than a guy like Cogger. So I don't know. I'm a little iffy on the Knights. Like it seems like they're really struggling right now, and they were held to nil by the Bulldogs. But at the same time, I get what you're saying. Sharp scored 35 in a game where he did nothing, had basically no run meters as well. 28 tackles is absolutely crazy. Really, this week there is no right answer. Though, like I'm
Mm.
kind of talking myself into Latrell as we go, but you
Yeah.
can take
This week's
any
a
shot
tough
here.
week. Yeah, this is a great week because the Humphreys injury are obviously really sad to hear, but it has really opened up the game. Like there's a lot of options this week, and there's no clear cut ones except maybe one or two cashies. So yeah, I'm loving them. I'm excited to see where everyone goes.
Yeah, big week. And then look, Toby Couchman's the last one here. We talked about him ad nauseum, so you guys know
He's
about
been here like
Couchman.
every week since like week 2.
Yeah. We've been recommending him, man, but
Yeah.
this is probably the last week where he's viable as an option. Priced at a 48. So if you think he's a 55 guy, he's still, kind of there or thereabouts. Probably really need a 58 out of him to make him worthwhile. He bumped out that 69 in 69 minutes, boosted by extra time, but I think this one's pretty straightforward. He just seems like a rock solid scorer, has that dual position, really doesn't have much of a worry in terms of guys returning because we've seen that Eisenhuth is now out for an extended period of time with repeat concussions. And we have Hame Sele now out for 3 to 4 weeks as well. So Couchman's role is really secure. I don't see much pushing against him. Emre Gula does come back in a couple of weeks, but it feels to me like Couchman is really securing a firm role, and he's gonna have a few games from the bench here and there, but that PPM is just so reliable for him.
Yeah, like high 50s average in cup, like 58 or so. He's the leader of their pack now. Like he's getting more minutes than like Jack DeBellin at lock. So it's not that he's getting inflated minutes because people are injured. Because you would think that a lock would get, a lock like Jack DeBellin, senior player, would get the minutes. But no, they're giving it to Toby Couchman. They want him to be the guy. Like I'd get it. Like
Yeah.
if you need a forward, like that dual position is super helpful. Yeah, I think this is like honestly you're probably your last chance. So if you really like the profile, get him in. And he's priced very similar to Humphrey, so it is a very similar straight trade.
Yep, hot option. And then we'll jump into cheapies here. Dylan Egan, 312K. We're already talking about the Dragons there, so everything we said there really helps him too. So Eisenhuth, Sele out of the picture. Egan's role is fantastic. He's playing in the second row for a bit. He's playing in the middle for a bit. Seems like he has about a 50-minute role for that sort of high 40s score each week. Egan looks good in real life. That's the other part of this we got to mention as well. So he just looks destructive and he looks like he's looking for the ball and he looks like the kind of guy who will never fade out of a game and disappear
Mm,
from a game. Like we
yeah,
talk about some of these cash cows, and a bunch of us got on Kidioni Kautonga, for example, the last few weeks. He's a guy who can go 50 minutes without a run. Like
yeah,
if it doesn't go his way, that can happen to him. Dylan Egan's not a player like that. So Dylan Egan probably a bit less, flash and talent in some ways, but he's a guy who just looks for it, and I absolutely love his potential to be a guy who could potentially pump out a 50 plus average if the role was right and if things go right for him. But yeah, 312K, he is rising quickly and he's just a superstar. So I think he's ahead of Hamish Stewart, and I think he's going to be one of the best cash cows this year.
yeah. I think get him in. I think he's the number one trade option this week. I think one trade, have to get Egan. If you've already got him, good stuff. You got two trades to work with. I think the first trade, yeah, absolutely. Egan's a guy that could average in the 40s at 312K. And like you said, he's much more reliable scoring profile than some of the other cashiers, like some of these centers, wingers, and low work rate back rowers. So I think, yeah, some of the things I saw, like Egan was chopping down blokes, late in the game when fatigue was there. Stuff coaches love, and he just looks good. And he's got a great kind of pedigree from fantasy perspective in Cup. So look, yeah, he's in my team. That's an easy one. A trickier one though is the next guy. we'll hold on him for all about 24 hours, Jaden Sullivan. I'll run you some stats. And kudos to our boy, Fungi at TCA. He raised him, and 276K. Jaden Sullivan does average 55.8 in games at halfback where he's playing 70 plus minutes. That average becomes 59 if you only consider his games at halfback last year at the Tigers. So a really hot scoring profile. Now, when I said I'm considering 2-3 trade options this week, Egan's my lock. Sullivan is the other guy I'm tossing with. It's another one of these really high risk trades. I'm not saying it's a great trade. I'm saying it could pay off, but it takes a really ballsy coach to do it because Latrell hogged all the kick meters and Sullivan scored 37 last week in 75 minutes. So let's say if he played 80 minutes, it's a 39, 40-point game. Still going to make money. How long does he have in that 7th position? What does Dodd do? If Dodd comes back, is it Latrell to 1 or center? Is it Sullivan to 6? Is it Sullivan back to the bench? Like, what is it? Like, you got to really kind of think about it. But if everything goes right for Sullivan and he gets 4 or 5 weeks at that 7th spot and he averages 40 with upside for more, he is an attacking player. He loves a try. He's got a lot of TAs and a lot of line break assists in him. We've seen scores when he's a halfback where he's 80 plus. Like, he could roll the money really quickly. These are the types of buys that everyone will avoid, that if you call it right, could turn into another Sua Wong situation, could just throw you up the ranks. And if you make a trade like, Humphreys to Sullivan, you're pocketing 400K. And what does that get you? That gets you like Shibasaki to a Farnworth. It gets you, like, when guys like Cole peak out, it goes from like Coles to a Hines or whatnot, right? So, I'm just making up examples here, but it's an interesting option. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's a smart option? No, it's low percentage for sure, but super high upside potential. But that's really all it is, potential. Even if he's scoring 40s for 4 weeks, that's good enough. But if he's scoring 50s for 4 weeks, show me the money. Let's go. I'm thinking about it.
It's risky. It's very risky. Because Lewis Dodd is, everyone's disregarding Dodd, and suspension, is it 1 week for him? I think it is.
I think it's 1 week. Yeah, that's right.
We'll have to confirm that. But with Lewis Dodd, he's the guy they paid 700K.
I want to look it up right now.
UK. Yeah, have a look at it while I talk a bit of smack. But look, he's the guy they paid 700K for from the UK. So they're going to want to know what they have in him. I doubt that he's a guy they've completely discarded. So from my view, if the Rabbitohs win this game, Bennett will stick with this team, right? If they can beat the Cowboys, I think he'll stick with this side. And I think they're a good chance at beating the Cowboys. But if they lose this game and, Dodd comes back to availability there as well, then they're going to want to see what they have there. And him next to Latrell is a really interesting combination too, because, that could really work. The other option there is Latrell goes back to fullback straight away, which I think is a possibility as well. And we end up just seeing Dodd and Sullivan together in the halves, which probably is a pretty good outcome.
I
Not
like
the worst
that
outcome there.
Yeah, I think that's better than next to Trell, who's much more dominant, I expect. Yeah.
But Latrell was kicking 300 meters a game last year from fullback. So
and then
keep
Dodd
doing
takes
that.
the other half. Yeah.
Yeah, you keep hogging them up. That's the risk there. But
Yeah.
I like this play. If we didn't have Dylan Egan, like as a certain buy, I'm probably going for Sullivan, I would say. I don't know, maybe Riley Smith, but Jenkins is a bit expensive now. Salava, we'll talk about it in a sec. But yeah, Sullivan could be an option. That suspension, by the way, is it 1 week?
Yeah, it's 1 week.
Yeah, okay. So that's really dangerous. But the other thing with Sullivan is he's got a break even at 23. But if you do buy Sullivan, the one thing I will say is put him in your 17. Like, definitely put him in your 17 because it's not worth the risk unless you give yourself a chance at getting that big score off him.
Yeah, that's right. Like I'm considering it's a toss up between him and one of the holds this week that I'm bringing in, but we'll go into it. Jenkins,
Exciting.
Mate,
Jenkins
could have got a huge score. McLean, what have you done?
Oh, McLean, yeah, just hogging it. Yeah, Jenkins could have been massive, but still a solid 40-plus score. This one's really easy. He's looking good. He looks like he's earned the spot. McLean was making some big mistakes in that game. 347K, like, what are you doing? You kind of got to go do it now if you haven't done it already. But Yeah, I would probably get Jenkins over most of these guys, except for Egan. Just that wing fullback spot is really useful, and he may get the center duel as well if he's still playing there in round 7. So, yeah, easy option.
Yeah, lucrative center position in the Panthers. Hopefully they get better. Like he's scoring well, and they're not even playing that well. Dylan Edwards back this week. Hopefully it helps out, and hopefully Casey McLean has learned that he has to pass the ball. Because kind of what happened, like Jenkins named at center, but McLean played at center, and Jenkins was on the wing. Let's see how they run out this week after he didn't pass him the ball. So, but I think wing or center, it doesn't really impact him too much. I think he's having a breakout season. He looks dangerous with the ball, strong runner. Might be too late,
Yep.
but probably not. So I would, you can still get on.
He can get to 500K. I reckon
Yeah.
he will. Then Riley Smith, what are your thoughts on him as a para fan?
Yeah, brilliant. Look, I've had Riley Smith for a few weeks now, thinking the breakout will come. It didn't pay off in terms of like fast money making, but it just means there's one less headache to get. I think he's a must-have. He played 60 minutes. His scoring profile in longer minutes hasn't been great. Like he seems to just be a 30s guy, but he's going to have a big game eventually, and that'll get the prices moving. I love to see like he made a huge difference at the end of the game and in Golden Point. Like his kick pressure, like the things
Yeah.
you want to see from a young guy late in games, like fatigue be damned. He was the one putting pressure on all the kickers, like Lockie Elias, Valentine Holmes. Like every time they were, making a punt or going for a dropout, a drop goal. Sorry, he was right in their face. And I think, look, I think he's young and unproven, so there's probably a chance Hopgood plays 20 minutes at hooker again, and Ryo plays 60. But I think he's proven that he's the guy for Parramatta. Like he's been better in that one game than Hans and Lussick have done combined for like the last 12 months. I think his base case is 55 minutes, and there probably comes a point where he'll play 80 minutes. So I really don't think that Hopgood needs to start the game there, but he might do it for a few weeks. I'm probably biased as a Hopgood owner, but yeah, look, get him in your team soon, because when he does break out into that 50+ game, his price is going to move pretty quickly.
I agree. I think they'll keep starting a hooker somewhere. Some hooker, maybe Dylan Walker, whoever it is, for the first 20 minutes, just because we play Canberra this week. Canberra's got a big forward pack. Maybe take a bit of the steam off the start of the game. But yeah, Riley Smith, 60, 65 minutes. I bought him last week. I like him. 35 was his base. He had 38 points in defensive stats. He got a 35. So he's shown he can attack a bit too. So I think the attack will come. Then Hugo Salava is interesting. So he's had 3 games so far this year. The most recent game, he scored a -4. That is strange because his true price is below 230K. So if you're new to fantasy, you might not know about this, but the minimum price a player can be is 230K. But if Hugo Salava was able to go below that, he could be worth like 100K. So it means his break even this week is 40 points just to get back even with
Yeah,
230K, which is about a 20
that's
point
the
average.
footy statistics break even. His actual break even on the NRL fantasy coach subscription is 72. So
Oh my
I don't
God.
know I don't know what the discrepancy is, but
Yeah. It's
either
a
way,
lot.
it's a high
Is
break
what I'm
even.
saying.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But whichever one's right.
I was building up to don't buy him this week. So it doesn't really matter what the number is, but he's just like that break even, whether it's 40 or 70, he's a rookie half. What he goes out and scores 50, even if it is 40, he doesn't make any cash anyway. So, yeah, give him a week, see how he plays, see how it is.
Yeah.
Townsend's a guy they went and recruited. And you've got the other part is you got Sam Walker coming back around round 10 as well. So, small window of time where he's going to have that shot. But if he looks super dynamite this week, scores well, you got a limited window where you could cash out to him and see how he goes. So I'm keeping an eye on him, but he'd have to wow me for me to jump on him.
Yeah, tough matchup to bring him into versus the Broncos. But I will say on the flip side, 53 average in Reggie's. So yeah, he could be a good scorer if he hogs the kick meters. But the other flip side to this is it could be good for Sandon Smith. So I sold Sandon last week with Tom Cant, but
Oh,
the upside for Sandon is higher now with Townsend's a kick meter hog. So
yeah.
if that becomes Sandon or it becomes more of a 50-50 split, then Sandon's value goes up significantly. But it's too late for me. He's gone. So
I'd
there's no
love for it
point
to
in
be
lamenting about
Sandon.
it.
I've
Yeah,
got him.
yeah.
I
So
just
let's
never
see.
play him. Like he's
Yeah,
classic NPR for me. I don't trust him.
yeah.
But if he starts kicking, I definitely will. Pods here. We've got Dylan Brown, Thomas Cant, Leo Thompson, Hudson Young, and Aaron Clark to talk about Now, I'll open us off with Dylan Brown because I know you want to run some laps on Thomas Kent. But for Dylan Brown, interesting turnaround game here. So obviously Parramatta got their first win of the year in extra time against St. George. St. George beat the Storm last week. The Storm beat Para round one. Like it's a messy little love triangle, but we all know Para's going to come out on top. Dylan Brown had 160 plus run meters. So he was just running the ball like an absolute madman. Great stats across the board. I think it was 3 tackle breaks, 3 offloads, had a few attacking stats, didn't have a try or anything like that, and still managed to score over 80 points in fantasy. 582K is not cheap for him, but it's cheap compared to what we've seen for the last half decade from Dylan Brown. So if you think he's going to bounce back, if you think that was an indication of what we're going to see for the rest of the year, then he's a great option. And the other thing I'll factor in here too is we're not seeing him kick the ball basically at all. So when Mitch Moses comes back, it's probably good news for Dylan Brown because he's not taking over any of Moses' duties right now. And the Eels attack will be even better. They'll be in more attacking positions. That's good for Dylan Brown. So I could see a world where he sort of starts to heat up and jumps right back up into the 700s area. But personally, with how bad he has been for the first month before that game, I'm going to need to see it one more time before I jump on.
He's a streaky guy. The other thing I will say is I think Dylan Walker has made a big difference to him. Like Dylan Walker running up the line and the kind of offering up that width that made a big difference to Dylan Brown. So look, he's one of those guys that could quickly rise to 700K, as you said, and you've got a couple of big scores. And I actually talked about him last week within the Casual Athlete and some other fantasy groups, and I got laughed at. So there you go. There you go, everyone. Follow your gut sometimes, even if it's probably going to be wrong. Speaking of following your gut, even if it go probably wrong, Tom Cant. I said if he had a good score and he was named at second row, I'd do this podcast topless. I'm not going to do that because my fiance will probably kill me. But
I don't think 50 was a good score, good enough to be topless.
But it was from center. And what I
no, sorry, 50 is good. I'm just getting you out of the topless thing.
Thank you. But 32 tackles at center. I love that because just imagine how many tackles I could have been at second row. Like that's the work rate I wanted to see. Those turnover tackles are good. I was worried he'd get named at center this week, but they've got Brodie Jones at 8 and him at 11. I don't care if they swap. I actually prefer Tom Cant in the middle. And excuse if you hear the bell going on. I think my dog's running around like a whack job in the living room right now. Look, Thomas Cant, potentially 2-3 more weeks at second row. I think if you didn't get him last week, he was already gone up 47, 48 odd K. It's too late because he probably makes another 100K from here and it's not worth the trade. But if you got him in last week, some people messaged me and said, Biz, you're a nutter, but I'm with you. And they got Tom Cant. Worked well. I think he plays 80 on the second row this week. He can go for another 50, 55 plus score. And at 500K, I miss Nicholson. I'm a fool for that. But hopefully Tom Cant can be my Nicholson with even lower ownership. So that's my thoughts.
Could he get to 700K is probably the big question there. I think it's pretty safe to say yes, right?
Yeah, he's got a low break even again. If he busts out a 60, I mean, if he's making 32 tackles at center, made 56 tackles at second row the week before. If you can do 45 tackles, 150 meters, throw in a couple of attacking sets. The problem is he loves busting a tackle, but he loves missing a tackle. But some of the players I saw in like line breaks and whatnot were really solid in terms of just how he was like the first one chasing them down. Yes, he missed the tackle, but he slowed down the ball runner so others could get him. So little things like that he was doing well. I think he can get to 700K in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, he's a hot option. He can play lock as well. So worth factoring in that he might play some lock when Lucas comes back. You could see Frizzell playing in a different spot. Like Frizzell's sort of in the later end of his career. So Frizzell could play prop even.
Yeah.
He's sort of that
especially if Saifiti's out for a while, yeah.
Yeah. So we might see Camp move to lock. Like there's a bit there. So I like him a lot. If I had 4 trades this week, I'd probably get Camp, but he's probably not my top 2. Leo Thompson's another one to talk about here as well. And I think Leo is really, really slept on as a monster pod. And I'll talk about him, then I'll talk about someone else as well in that middle forward spot. But for Leo, we've seen him play 2 really good games and 1 where he played less minutes. So in round 1 and last week, he scored 55 points. He played a bunch of minutes. He had 1 random game in round 2 where obviously he was ruled out for a bit after that, but he played less and scored less. But I'm looking at Leo Thompson here without Safidi in the team. He's going to have to step up. He's going to have to be a big factor here because we're also seeing Adam Elliott out with a calf injury too. So Leo Thompson to me feels like a guy who at 581K could get past that sort of 700K point, could sort of average 55 realistically over a period of time. And again, it's probably not, a move I'm making here just at 581. If he was down at 500K or something like that, I'd jump on. But at the same time, like that 55, he's pumped that out twice. They're going to need him to be a big factor here. I don't think they care that he's going at the end of the year. Like they've elevated, Jaden Brayley as well, who I think is a wait and see, by the way, just on him. But Leo Thompson, yeah, could be an option. It could be a serious pod if you do want someone who's completely outside of the box.
Yeah, I like that one because not many people will be considering him. Only the really knowledgeable coaches will even look at him. 580K, it's not that bad. I think there's low downside with quite a bit of upside. Again, another one of those, like, is he any worse than some of the names we mentioned in the buys? Like, not really. Like, I think he can be just as good as, like, he could be better buy than Trell for, like, a cheaper option. He could be a better buy than Fogg. So yeah, I think it's a good one. I think Hudson Young's another one. I mean, this year, no edges really come out. And like, there's no Fafita this year in terms of just pure edge dominance. Hopgood's just spotty this year, like on and off, kind of averaging the low 50s. Preston started slow, but he's moving back up. I think Preston, Hudson Young, and Angus has started slow. He's moving back up. I think it could be anyone's game who the best second rower is this year. And there's no reason Hudson Young can't be because he's scoring extremely well. He's playing really well. Look, Longy, I know you're a big fan of him in real life. Is he
Yep.
someone you're considering to put next to your boy Angus?
Oh man, I'd love to. I'd love to. If we didn't have Dylan Egan at the edge spot already, I would jump on Hudson Young. Like if Egan was removed from the team, I'd really think about this. Yeah, like you said, I like him in real life. He's just a big, aggressive player, very smart footballer at times, like with one-on-one steals and runs nice lines. He's got Kautonga as his matchup with Parramatta this week as well. And Kautonga, I'm liking the look of him, but he's a less than 10 game rookie and a guy who hasn't been locked down in defense. So I think we could see Hudson Young show out again this week. If you want to buy a guy who could score sort of 70 odd this week, I feel like Hudson Young's one of those guys who you're gonna get a solid score out of straight away. Especially if you're in a head-to-head matchup you want to win. So yeah, I like him quite a bit. I'll just mention briefly before we get to Aaron Clark too, Dan Safidi. He's quietly pumped out a mid-50s average. Look, he's in the 600s now for price, so he's not cheap, but I feel like I look at him and he feels like the kind of guy who could potentially maintain that. The Dolphins really need him to do it. And then Aaron Clark's the other one to mention here as well. No Dylan Walker at the Warriors now, so Aaron Clark steps into a bigger minute role. Before the bye, he played one game without Walker. It was 49 minutes for 50 points. That included, big run meters, and it's worth noting here for Aaron Clark too. He's averaging over 150 run meters a game, so he's giving himself opportunities to grab attacking stats, offloads, tackle breaks, tries, that kind of thing. And 500K covering the hooker spot as well. Mate, if I was building a team today, I'd have Aaron Clark in it. But is it worth a trade? Probably not over some of the other guys I'm looking at, but definitely someone to note.
Yeah, not much to add there. I think it could be a sneaky one if you want to play it a bit risky.
Yeah, dicey, risky. Bo Firma. So he played at center last week. He scored 20 points. How do you feel about Bo? Because look, Biz, I know you're a man who loves a back rower who plays in the centers, but this time you got a back rower who's eligible for center in fantasy, who ended up playing center in real life and didn't get the score, unlike Thomas Cant, your boy. Do you
Yeah.
think Bo is one that's safe to buy right now, like relying on the fact that they did lose that game and they probably won't do this again soon?
Yeah, look, I'm not too I wouldn't be too worried about it as a holder, like as a owner of Famore. I think he's going to hold that second row spot for the season. If he has a few games at center, you just ride out a low score. Like you've had some good scores from him. Like I wouldn't worry too much because like what center doesn't have a low score, right? Like even except maybe Herbie Farnworth, who's just an absolute machine. But yeah, like, I'm holding Famore. He's still at a decent price. He's not that expensive for what his potential is. Could be a top. Actually, what should be a top three center at the end of the year, like him, Lucas, and Herbie, it should be the easy top three. So I'm holding him without question.
Also, just a bit of news that came through. Lomax out for 6 to 10 weeks. Fracture in the hand or foot. I'm getting a few text messages, but that seems to be what's
Is that
breaking
right?
at the moment.
All right. Well, I'll just jump out the 30th floor window then. See you later.
Yeah, it's tough being a para fan.
Oh my God.
That's super annoying. That
changes a lot of things. Who kicks goals this week? Who's in that spot? I mean, Bailey Simonson comes in. That's a pretty easy one. But goal kicker? Is it
Sean
going to be my
Russell.
boy Jermaine Hopgood?
Sean Russell's 287K.
Yeah, Russell. I mean, yeah, they've got 2 weeks in the bye. Then Moses is back.
Yeah.
So Russell's a decent. I mean, it's not like Para's kicking a lot of goals though, but terrible blow. I mean, if that's true, I mean, just seen some messages too. But if that's true, then yeah, well, it's a live break. Yeah.
Wait for confirmation, guys. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. I'll post confirmation when it happens. But Lomax out of the picture. Bo Firma, for me, now I'm a bit sad doing this podcast. Bo Firma for me though, he's a guy that I'm looking at. When he gets cheaper, I'll target him as a buy. Like that's how I view him as a non-owner. Reece Walsh, 488K, and I'll mention briefly that we had a serious conversation when Reynolds went down with a hamstring injury about Walsh at that point because goal kicking is added to the equation there. Maybe more general play kicking. It may have made Ben Hunt a viable option as well, as he would have taken the dominant half role here too. But Adam Reynolds is named to play this week, so that's out of the equation. Still, Biz, I know you're looking at Walsh at 488K.
Yeah, look, first of all, my headphones got disconnected. Can you still hear me, Lonnie?
Yeah, I can still hear.
Yeah, perfect. So I ran some numbers pretty heavily on Walsh. And Walsh is the other guy. I said I'm looking at three guys. So Egan's my definite, and I'm tossing up between Sullivan and Walsh. And now I'm going to read out some stats to you. I did some deep dive analysis as to why Reece Walsh is scoring about 21 points lower than last year. I'll tell you where the big changes are. So out of the 25-point differential between his average this year versus last year over 70 minutes, he's losing 7 points in try scoring. So last year he scored 1.1 tries a game. This year's 0.2. The Broncos have got a lot better in attack. So that, to me, is an anomaly. That'll even out over the year. He's losing 1.2 points a game on goal kicking. So the narrative that he's not getting the goal kicking is causing this difference is a myth. He is losing 3 points a game from line breaks. Last year, 1 line break per game. This year, 0.2. Like the tries, it's going to come. They're a better attacking side. Line break assists, he's only losing 1 per game. He's losing 3.5 points per game on tackle breaks. Last year, 4.7. This year, 3. Offloads to hand, he's losing 1 point. Meters gained, he's losing 4 points. Last year, 165.5. This year, 125.6. And the other narrative that he's losing a lot of kick meters to Hunt is also only contributing 3 points. So if you combine the additions of kick meters minus 3 points and goals minus 1.2 points, grand total of, say, 4.2 points, he should still be averaging in the high 40s, like 50. So all this time, look, Hunt is different to Ezra Man. Broncos attack this year, different. But I'm telling you, like, Haas offloading the ball, Carrigan rolling up the middle, like the best they've looked in a long time. There's going to be a breakout game. And you got to be the one that's ballsy enough to catch it when he gets that 80. Now, he's looking trash. I'm telling you, 8 points in goals last week, still only 31 points. Everyone's telling me, Beers, like, you're just not on this one. And, like, he's priced at, like, mid-30s now. Even if he keeps scoring 30s, it's not the end of the world. He could be a 50 guy still. Maybe not. Maybe it's just all in my head. But the guy's 22 years old. People piling on Reece Walsh. People forget how young he is given how long he's been there already. Like, he'll take time to get used to this new style of play. But he is a talented freak. Like, he's going to be potentially the best fullback in the game within 5 years. I know a lot of haters are going to shut me down for this, but he will be. Like, he's so young and he's already a beast, right? And some of these gun fullbacks are aging. So, look, I'm like coin flipping him and Sullivan at the moment. I really like Reece Walsh. It's just a matter of when, really. Like, he's going to score 70 one week and everyone's going to try and hop on him. I want to be there for the 70 and not the week after. So, good matchup this week against the Roosters, who are decimated, really, still rookie halfback. Like, could be a beatdown. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
You make great points. I was considering him last week as well. Glad I didn't do it, but yeah, everything you said is correct. You have a decent sample size as well. So we talk about last year being that low 50s average, but he's had those 48, 49 style seasons as well when he hasn't been goal kicking. So yeah, I'm with you there completely. I think he will bounce back at some point. Break even's still pretty high. Like, yeah, I'm not as keen on him this week, but the matchup is good, like you said, and he probably doesn't play Origin as well. Like, it's almost certainly going to be Ponga.
Yeah.
Ponga looks really durable right now too. So Walsh should be safe through that period. 488k is absurd. Big discount. If you have him already, by the way, there's a few people asking me about selling him. Don't do that. Like, you've copped the biggest L in not in fantasy history, but close to it here. Don't cement the L. Stay on, and then when he has that big game, like you were talking about, Biz, those people will get that big score and they get a little bit of that love back. So I'm with you there completely. I think he has to bounce back at some point.
Agreed.
And Con what?
Connor
728?
Yeah. Look, it's crazy to be selling him now. Like, just a down game. He just scored like 90 odd 2 weeks ago before his HIA. Like, he's a beast. Just hold him. It's a pretty easy one.
Yep. A lot of people are asking about selling him. So that's why I've included him here. But yeah, rock solid, hold. Don't buy him because the origin schedule for the Roosters is really bad. But if you got him, definitely hold him. Then Alex Seyfarth, you're an owner, 545k. He's priced at 41. I view him as a sort of high 40s, mid to high 40s guy long term. So let's say we pencil him in at a 47. That's 6 points of value he still has to go. Had a shocker last week. So did Payne Haas. So did everyone.
Everybody. That was like a terrible fantasy scoring game. When I woke up, I missed the game live, and I looked at the stats. I'm like, this must be a case where the stats guys have like missed a whole category, like meters gained. Like it's happened in the past. And then it was the final thing, and everyone was trash. So I was just, I don't know what happened except carrying.
Super weird. Yeah, super weird game. Well, Seyfarth, you stick with him though. 545, dual position. He's a banger. He had the big score the week before. Like, absolutely just live with it. Then Hopgood, again, I'll throw him to you. 710k. Are you considering selling him at all? And I guess my follow-up question today is going to be, if you didn't have Humphreys this week, who was an obvious sell, would you be considering selling Hopgood?
Yes and no. I mean, like, I know that's a trash answer. Probably yes, I would consider it. But like, he scored 37 last week. He had 20 minutes at hooker to start the game. It's probably going to happen again this week, which I don't love at all. The thing is, he scored 3 points in those 20 minutes. I think that in itself is not going to happen again. Even if he's playing hooker for 20 minutes, he's going to score at least 10, 15 points just from tackling in the middle. I think that was a very strange first 20 minutes for him. So if that happens, he still scores in the high 40s, low 50s. I think while he's playing that role, his upside is really sealed to like a 50, 55 point guy. But I just think that, he's too good a player. Like, Parramatta need him. I think he's a holdover the season. Like, I can't really see myself trading him out. Like, he's still priced in the low 50s anyway, which I think he can hit. And there's no real anything to me is sideways at that price. Like, there's some good options, but there's usually a higher priority sell or an upgrade to make than Hopwood.
I'm with you. He's my watch list. So if he gets down to 650, or whatever it is, and starts to turn it around, I'll be buying him 100%. He's a guy who, might be around the Origin side, might not. If he gets to the Origin team, he would have scored well for you in fantasy anyway. So, yeah, at that price, stick with him. It's mostly upside from there. And then sells, these are pretty straightforward. Jamie Humphreys, seeing him go down 5 minutes into the game was a heartbreaking moment for all of us. So I just want to give our thanks to Jamie Humphreys, who has made the cash-making process in this year's fantasy season so much easier with his fantastic play in real life and in fantasy. He'll be back. He has 4 to 6 weeks on the sideline with a hamstring injury, but I would say he's done plenty to lock in that role for South Sydney. And I would say when they're thinking about next year and the year after, he might even be ahead of Cody Walker. Like, he has done so much in that spot that I feel like he's their number one half now. So Jamie Humphreys will be back in the future. If you got him in a draft league, stick with him. But in your classic team, it's 4 to 6 weeks. It's too long. If it was 2 or 3 weeks, by the way, I would have held. I like Humphreys, but that 4 to 6 weeks is just too long.
You've turned into Batman, Longy. Why is it so dark? I'll take over while Longy sorts out his light situation. The only really consideration for me, Humphreys is a definite sell. The only question is, am I buying him back when he's fit? Question for another day, but probably. Jack Collins, and I think, look, he's not an immediate sell. He's going to miss the week with HIA. There's just two reasons why I'd sell him is that one, his only big scores have come when Cleary's been out. Next to Cleary, he's averaging like 15, 20 points. So like he doesn't do anything next to Cleary. Like Cleary does everything, which is why Cleary is such a strong buy, right? Like Cleary just dominates the playmaking. So that's one aspect. So you're really banking on Cleary injuries and things like that to get Jack Collins scored. The other thing is Tungy was their big buy. If he has a good game at 6 this week, in a good matchup against the Dolphins, like there's no guarantee Cole comes back. Like it's not like he's setting the world alight. Like he had that good game while Cleary was out, but as a foil next to Cleary, it's not working. They're 1-4. They got to change something. So if they win this week and Talangi is a good game, that could be the end of Cole anyway. So at 377K, even if he's in the team, there's not much meat left on that bone. There's better cashies. You can move him to an Egan. You can move him to a Jenkins. You could punt on a Sullivan, or you can upgrade Cole to one of the other guys. So yeah, I think he's a firm sell. Adam Reynolds is an interesting one, Longy. What's your thoughts? Because he's been playing pretty well fantasy wise this year.
Yeah, man, playing lights out. He's made 100K. He went off in that game last week with the hamstring, but he's good to go this week. My thinking here is if you've got Reynolds, quit while you're ahead. Quit while you're ahead. You've made cash. He's very expensive. He's not a sell over Humphreys or Cole or those sorts of guys, but if you can move Reynolds on for someone productive, like say Reynolds to Fogarty or something like that, definitely do it right now because that hamstring is just a little preview of what's going to happen in the future. And often when a guy has that, half game due to a hamstring, there is an injury after that at some point as well, or he might rein it back in a bit, or Hunt might take more of the kicking in general play just to ease things up for Reynolds, or there's any sort of number of little things that can go wrong at this point. And I think you've done so well with Reynolds to this point that you're not going to get that much further ahead from him, so you might as well move off.
Yeah, I think lingering injuries with a guy at that age is he's been so good for them. They'll be cautious with him. So yeah, Jack G, you want to gloat a bit?
300K, yeah. I mean, I had to put this on here because all the Jezewski owners were in the comments after round one saying, "Oh, how could you ignore him? He's a superstar back rower in that Broncos side." Blah blah blah. Nah, here he is. He's made 50K. He's scored 6 points last week in a game where they scored 46. Jezewski is in the Fantasy Hall of Fame, and he's not at Pierre Carreras level, but he's in the Fantasy Hall of Fame for very mediocre fantasy production. And to me, this puts him on the never again list permanently. I will never consider Jack Jezewski in fantasy. I will say this is pure fantasy chat, right? So I think he's had a great career in real life, and I think he seems like a good bloke, and he's a pretty solid football player in real life. But just for fantasy, he is done and dusted.
Yeah, like he's been scoring tries this year, but he's only made 50K. He's been in a great situation. I think he just proved this is probably the one exception to the year of the trap, the one trap that didn't pan up. Could score 80 this week. I don't know, but look, I think if you've got him, there's better money makers out there. I honestly I don't know if I'd sell him while I hold this spot. You just hope that he has one of those double games where he scores 50 and it moves it up a bit. And I'd try and cash him out when he gets to 350 if he gets there, but that 6 is not going to help.
It's going backwards though.
It's going backwards. If you think that's because you're not playing 80 minutes anymore either.
50 last week.
Yeah, so 50. Yeah, that's like his PPM. 50 is like 20 at best. So
what was 6?
Yeah. I don't know. Would you rather Jack Jezewski or would you rather Jalen DeGroot? I don't want no personal knock on the player, but this guy is Jalen DeGroot in fantasy, mate.
Yeah,
you like that?
Yeah, mate, that was pretty good. I mean, yeah, no, I like that we caveat it like that because all the trash talk, it is fantasy, it is stats. Like these guys are rocking up, and they'd lay us both out if we ran at them. So I do like to hammer that we're not shitting on these guys, but. Jalen DeGroot, 80 meters a week. Like for fantasy, that's just a total disaster. And I keep hearing the guy has wheels. let's see him. Let's see him. Like, I just haven't really seen it so far. Titans have been a bit dodgy as well. So, they got pounded by the Dolphins. Jalen DeGroot at that price. This feels like the year, like we talked about it a bit. It's the kind of year where you don't want to, leave a dead roster spot. And DeGroot started at 300K 2 weeks ago, right? He's dropped 21K already. Like he's going to get down to 230K and then get dropped or whatever happens. Like it's just a total mess. I would move him on if I had him, and I'd move him on for like a Dylan Egan or someone like that, and just bite the bullet there. But if you have other options to sell instead, if you have Cole and Humphreys, you could probably sell them first. Although at the same time, I would definitely sell Cole and Humphreys before DeGroot, but he's a sell too.
Yeah, DeGroot, even with like a 100-meter runaway try, he's probably only scoring like mid-20s or late 20s. So, there's not much. Look, it just hasn't panned out. I'm sorry if you bought him. The cup stats kind of backed up that he's not a great fantasy guy. So, we'll end our coverage on Jalen DeGroot. Just before
we're going to finish on Pierre Crew, man.
Yeah, we've got to finish on Pierre Crew. Before we get to Pierre Crew, I just want to throw a couple more names that I've been thinking of this week that are not great ideas yet, but a couple of names that I just wanted to throw out. I've already talked about some of them during the show. A couple of the other ones I want to talk about. Isaac Tunga, real cheap at the moment. Yeah. Like Reece Walsh, he's only 22. Like he's been around forever. He's been in like 4 premierships, but he's only 22 years old. There's going to be a point where he turns it around and gets on a run. Keep him on your watch list. Like if he's 350K at some point, like you want him in your team. Even if he's like a non-playing reserve, just kind of you wait for that run. That's fine. Other guys for the watch list, like Ruben Cotter, he's dropped quite a bit of money. Reece Robson, those guys.
Jeremiah Nanai, 450.
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of guys just keep. Like we talk about this every week, Longy, like filter by the most money lost. There's going to be value there. There's always someone like you got to be a contrarian in fantasy sometimes. You got to buy in when others are like kind of avoiding. Like when you think they've bottomed out, you want to be the guy getting the score and not chasing the bag. So that's just my last words. A couple of guys to keep an eye out on.
There's a few guys like that, man. Like Damian Cook or Little, if there was an injury.
Harry Grant.
Harry Grant. Ethan Strange is about 350K right now.
Yep.
If he got down to 280, we can do that again after last year.
No, is it a KO Weeks is like that, like mid 300s or high 300s at the moment, maybe just 400ish. A lot of guys that a lot of streaky guys that could make you a quick 150, 200K. So watch for a good run of fixtures and get them in.
Eyes up footy, boys. Good way to finish there. Cheers for jumping on, Biz. Great work again on your move to just outside the top 1,000.
Yeah.
Hopefully we come back next week and we're both sitting inside that 1,000.
Yeah.
I might go Latrell at this point.
Yeah. That's good. I love that you're going Trell. If you're going Trell, because I'm going pending any new news coming out, like Sullivan or Walsh. So we're all going on some high attacking, low reliability guys. Latrell's reliable.
Celebrations or pain.
Yeah, Latrell's not going to be bad. He's going to be either good or great. But you really want
800K for him though. That's the issue.
Yeah,
he's got to be good.
Yeah. Walsh or Sullivan could be bad. They're both priced that they can be bad, and it's not the end of the world. But look, it should be a fun show. If we back our gut and we make these trades, and we've got a couple of pods in for next week, we should have a fun show next week.
Right, fingers crossed. And everyone, let me know your trades in the comments there too, and we'll talk about them there. Peace out, guys. Cheers for jumping on, Biz.